Hi everybody, Brady Joker here, and welcome to the video. Today I'm finally going to be reviewing the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've been putting off watching these for a very long time because they're all just so long, and for the record, I watched all three of these in one sitting with the extended editions. So, yeah, it was rough. I also want to say sorry that my voice is probably going to sound really dumb this video. I'm like pretty sick right now and my voice is just really stuffy. So sorry about that. Also want to remind you guys that this is my opinion. Okay, I know a lot of people love these movies. I did not grow up with them, okay? I don't have any connection to them. I just finally decided I wanted to watch them. So this is my opinion. Final thing I want to say is that I want to be giving my full thoughts on these movies, and that's going to require me talking about some things that happen in the movies. So, full spoilers ahead, okay? Full spoilers, okay? Don't want to spoil this thing for anyone, because if you haven't seen this trilogy, I highly recommend it. And with that said, let's just jump straight into the first movie. So we start with Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And wow, we start this trilogy off with an absolute banger. Despite the fact that this is my least favorite film in the trilogy, by far. However, this movie easily might have the best exposition I've ever seen in a film, ever. The way the film introduces us to its world and its characters is just so seamless. I also love how it introduces us to a character, Bilbo, who, well, he's not that important in this film, but I know he's in The Hobbits, and that, yeah, but I like his character in this one. We also meet Frodo, who is played by Elijah Wood, and probably the main character of the trilogy. And even though he is probably the main character, I find his character to be, you know, one of my least favorites in the entire trilogy. We also meet Gandalf, who at first doesn't really leave a massive impression on me at first. Like, yeah, he cool, but, you know, he doesn't really do anything to stand out until way later in the movies. We also meet Frodo's gardener. I don't really know if they're best friends, but I know he's his gardener, and that's Sam. And Sam's character is awesome, but we'll get to him much later. We also meet two other of Frodo's little hobbit friends that he hangs out with, Merry and Pippin. Man, it would be really weird if these three characters, these hobbit small people, became pivotal points in the plot later on. Then we get to the main plot, where Frodo learns about this silly old little ring. It's just a little ring. It, might give you the power to be kind of a god, and it's being hunted down by a literal demon thing called Sauron. Need I mention that this dude will kill and destroy everything in its path to get this ring back. He created the ring way before the movies took place. We get that in the first like 15 minutes of the film, but not that important for this video. So Frodo and Sam set off to destroy the ring in Mount Doom, and they somehow end up with Merry and Pippin along the way. The four of them then meet this random dude named Aragorn, who kind of is mysterious at first, but you'll come to see very soon that this dude is an absolute badass. I like the way his introduction is. He's set up to be this kind of mysterious dude who you're not really sure if you can trust or not, because if you've never seen the films or don't know any of the characters, he's set up to where he's like this dark dude in the shadows, and I really like that. The five of them then go out and fight some beasts on top of this like tower thing, I'm not really sure, and Frodo ends up getting stabbed by like a ghost thing. Sorry, all the Lord of the Rings nerds are going to flame me because I don't know the names of things. Sorry. After Frodo gets injured and stabbed and almost dies, he has to be taken to the beautiful place of Rivendell. Now this is probably as good of a time as ever that I just ordered the Lego Rivendell set. my most expensive and my biggest set, mind you. And also, I think I want to make a video about it, about building it and stuff. So at the time of recording this, it's still not here, and I don't know when it will be. It's such a beautiful setting, and we meet all of the characters who will eventually go on to form the Fellowship. We meet Gimli, who is a dwarf who's supposed to sort of be the comic relief, and I think he works really well. But he's also an absolute badass, and he has a lot of heart and personality to him, and I think he's just a great character. Okay, hot take time. Maybe. I don't know, like, opinions on these movies, on characters and scenes and stuff, so this could be a hot take, but Legolas is, like, by far the worst character in the Fellowship. He really just doesn't have any personality or doesn't do anything to stand out compared to the others. He's just kind of there. Spoiler for later in the video, but seriously though, the entire trilogy, I was just sitting there waiting for him to do something. I was just sitting there in my seat like, do something cool. Like make me like you. Get some personality. And then we meet Boromir, who is kind of just Aragorn, but not as cool. Now don't get me wrong, I like Boromir because I love Aragorn, but to be honest, this first film doesn't really give him any character. He's just kind of there to help out, like Legolas, until Two Towers comes in and gives him a lot more of a backstory and a character. For example, his character is super random. Later in the film, he just randomly attacks Frodo out of absolutely nowhere. Like, he's come off as this, he's a bit of an arrogant guy. He thinks he's super tough and stuff, but he's never really seemed against the Fellowship until this moment. And it feels super out of character and super random. And then Two Towers comes along and it fills some gaps in for us. But that's something I have a problem with this movie. Well, that problem and also another one we'll get to in a minute. I just don't think the first film in a 12.5-hour binge really gives the time to expand on the characters and the world as much as the other films do. And a lot of you might be like, oh, well, it's the first movie in a trilogy. Of course it's not going to be as fully fleshed out. Wrong! Have you seen Into the Spider-Verse? By the time Into the Spider-Verse ended, every character felt very fleshed out and had fully complete narrative arcs while still continuing the story of the trilogy, which hasn't even concluded yet. And then the Fellowship, no character even remotely comes close to feeling like a complete character, maybe except Boromir by the end. Well, it's because he frickin' dies. Spoiler. Anyways, once they all meet, they all form the Fellowship of the Ring. And by the way, Gandalf, he got in a fight with this dude named Saruman, and they had a fight, and Gandalf, almost died, and then he didn't, and now he's back with the Fellowship. I mean, this dude got bodied by Saruman. And speaking of Saruman, he's not, that crazy of a character, in my opinion. I think he's played expertly, but he's just kind of Sauron's right-hand human man, I guess. I don't know. He doesn't really do much in the rest of the trilogy aside from a couple things, but yeah, Saruman's fine. So then they form the Fellowship and they set off to destroy the ring together and protect Frodo while doing it. And that's what I consider the end of the exposition. That is where we stop, learning more about the characters and we start the journey to what will eventually be the climax in Return of the King. And after that, we get to what I consider the worst part of the movie. I think this is a very hot take, but I don't like the Mines of Moria. I don't like that section. The action scenes are just so choppy in my eyes. It feels so all over the place, and I just didn't like that scene. As well as just everything leading up to the Mines of Moria as well, and even things that follow it. They walk, they get in danger, they fight some beasts or orcs or whatever they fight, and then Frodo almost dies and Gandalf saves him. That's it. And then at the end of the Mines of Moria sequence, I believe... Sorry, it's been a while since I watched these. It's already been almost a month, and it's... Guys, cut me some slack. It's a 12.5-hour binge. Things are getting faded. But Gandalf gets bodied again by this magma lava beast who I refuse to look up the name of because I just don't care that much. But it's obviously like, it's the only scene in the entire trilogy that I knew. It's the only thing I knew about the movie going in. Anyways, he goes, you know, the "you shall not pass." It's cool. And then Gandalf fucking dies. And then they fight some orcs in a forest after that, and Boromir also fucking dies. However, his death scene is honestly better than Gandalf's because he delivers the best line in the entire movie by far. Aragorn's holding him in his arms, and he goes, "I was gonna follow you, my brother, my captain, my king." Oh, so good. And then the movie's kind of over. Frodo and Sam get split up and they set off on their own. Merry and Pippin, oh yeah, they're characters. I kind of forgot about them. They get kidnapped by some orcs. And then it's up to Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn to save them from the orcs. They're done with the first 4-hour movie. 3.5 hours, but whatever. Overall, I do love this film. It's probably the most beautiful film in the entire trilogy because as soon as Two Towers and even more so Return of the King, the films get a lot darker in not only its tone, but its look. And this film just has the most beautiful scenery, I think, out of the entire trilogy. And from what I've heard from people who have read the books and also watched the movies, Fellowship of the Ring is the movie that captures the essence of the books the best. I just think it suffers a bit from being the first movie in this entire narrative trilogy. And sorry, that's just me. So yeah, I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this one. Then we get to Two Towers, which most people consider to be the worst. However, I wholeheartedly disagree. To be honest, other than one side plot, it's probably the movie I have the least amount of flaws with. And from here on out, since a lot of our main characters are now split up, I'm going to be talking about each of their side plots individually and not go in chronological order of scene by scene like I kind of was in the last film. And I will also be doing that with Return of the King since it follows kind of the same format as this film. And if you don't like that, I don't care. So we're gonna start with Sam and Frodo, and their plot is actually something a lot of people hate. However, I love this story. In fact, it's one of my favorite aspects of this film. During this side plot, another character is introduced to us, and that character is Gollum. And, well, I kinda love Gollum. He's a great character, and kind of like Aragorn, you don't know if you can trust him or not. You're leaning more towards distrust because, you know, he's Gollum, but I still like, because you see him battling his own morals throughout the entire movie, because he's talking to himself as Gollum, and also Sméagol, who was, that was his name before he became Gollum. And of course, we get the amazing dynamic between Frodo and Sam. So essentially the ring, when you're wearing it or even when you're carrying it with you, it starts to corrupt your mind a little bit. It kind of makes you lose your own sanity and it turns you into a different person. And through all of that, the one person to keep Frodo grounded in reality is Sam. And the way their friendship is built upon and expanded throughout this movie is one of the reasons I love it so much. And then later on, after a lot of, you know, talking and struggling and dynamics and stuff, they get captured by a dude named Faramir, who might sound a bit familiar. And if you're thinking what I'm thinking, yeah, this dude is related to Boromir, the guy who got bodied last movie in the forest. So yeah, this is where you get Boromir's kind of backstory, and I think it makes his character a lot better. You learn that Faramir and Boromir are brothers, and the only reason Boromir was on this journey was to get the ring for his dad, to make him proud, and so that his dad can be the ruler and whatnot. And so it gives his character a lot more of a character. So that's something I love about this movie, the way it expands on some of its characters from the first film. I think that's done perfectly. So Faramir takes the three of them to the kingdom of Gondor, where his dad is king, and we learn that he is a supreme dick. And after a lot of debating and a lot of stuff going on at the same time, with the Battle of Helm's Deep going on at the same time at this point in the movie, Faramir decides to be the good guy and set Gollum, Frodo, and Sam free. And during this whole sequence, Sam easily delivers the best line in the movie. Frodo says, "What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for." It's so good, bro. Come on. How do you guys not like this one? And that's it for their side plot. Moving on to Merry and Pippin. Yeesh. Yeah, brace yourself. But this is a pretty garbage side plot, and it's just kind of fucking boring. They meet this dude, Treebeard, who is an Ent, and they're tree people. And yeah, I don't have much else to say, so all you nerds can now go down in the comments and tell me why this side plot is so important and the most important part of the entire trilogy, and why it's so good. Believe me, I don't care. And at the end of the side plot, they invade Isengard, where Saruman is stationed, and they kind of demolish everything that's in it. And after that, Merry and Pippin smoke some sweet berry kush. And that's their side plot, summed up in like a minute. And next, we have Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. So once again, Legolas does absolutely nothing, so I'm not going to really say anything about him here. But man, Aragorn and Gimli, yeah, they really stand out in this film. Basically, the thing that they do in this movie is they save this dude, Theoden, or Rohan. He's the king of Rohan, and his name's King Theoden, or whatever. And they save him from Saruman or Grima. Was it Grima or Saruman? I can't remember. One of them was inside of like King Theoden's soul or body or something crazy like that. It's nuts. Also, forgot to mention, but Gandalf gets frickin' reincarnated as Gandalf the White because, you know, he's kind of a god. And after he kind of comes back during the saving of King Theoden, he does nothing. He kind of just rides off on his horse and then doesn't do anything until the very end of the film. And then all the people in Rohan are like, yeah, we need to flee because the orcs are coming and they're going to murder us, so we need to go. They're basically a nomadic group of people from what I understand. So yeah, that's why they're traveling. So they set off on their journey to Helm's Deep. And this journey is really nice because it explores more of Aragorn's character. You learn that he's some sort of superhuman, I don't remember what it's called, where he is not immortal, but he's like really old. He's 87 in the films. You learn he's 87, which is kind of nuts. You also learn about you learn more about his love for Arwen, who you meet in the last movie, but she doesn't really do anything in Fellowship of the Ring. In fact, she doesn't really do anything in the whole series other than to be Aragorn's love interest. That's another problem with the trilogy that a lot of people talk about, is that there's literally no interesting female characters, which, like, yeah, it kind of sucks. And then, bang, the orcs, surprise attack, ah! And they get in a battle, and Aragorn falls off a cliff and is presumed dead, ah! But, you know, obviously he's not dead. And I'll get into this issue more in the next film, but I cannot count the amount of times a character looks like or is about to die, and then bang, all of a sudden they're either fine the next scene or walked away at least alive. And then finally Aragorn gets back, and then the orcs attack Helm's Deep, and it's easily the best battle in the entire trilogy. It's so intense and so entertaining, and I love so many scenes, particularly when Gimli and Aragorn get up on that like bridge or walkway and they start fighting off the orcs together, like it's so fun. It's so cool. Oh. And Legolas does nothing except he rides a shield down some steps like a skateboard and then kicks it into an orc's head, which was probably a top 2 thing he did in the entire trilogy, and it's like a 5-second clip. However, just when it seems like the Rohans are about to lose. Gandalf shows up with some dude named Eomer? Eomer? I don't know how to pronounce his name. And he's like another little traveling dude with a bunch of soldiers who Theoden thought was going to ditch them, but Gandalf got them to come and help at the Battle of Helm's Deep. And then, bang, the orcs get destroyed. And that's where the movie ends, with Frodo and Sam and Gollum being set free to go back to Mount Doom, the winning of Helm's Deep, and then the destruction of Isengard with Merry and Pippin. And all in all, other than Merry and Pippin's side plot with Treebeard, I pretty much love everything about this film. It flows really well from one side plot to the next. It doesn't seem like something that I'll talk about later where a character will disappear for like an hour and then show back up and you're like, oh wait, you're a character. I kind of forgot. So yeah, I kind of love this film and I'm feeling a light 9 on this one. Finally, we're at the home stretch with Return of the King. And to be honest with you, this is the Lord of the Rings film that I have the most amount of issues with. However, it's easily my favorite. So here's the deal. This is a 4-hour film, and it's going to be incredibly difficult to talk about in a cohesive way. So I'm just going to talk about everything and anything that comes to mind when regarding this film. So let's kind of just start with some of the positive things that I can just roll off the tongue real quick. First of all, the climax. Holy shit, talk about an epic conclusion. The last scene on Mount Doom is easily one of my favorite climaxes I've ever seen. It's just so good. It's intense and amazing and I love it. And this scene also solidified Sam as being my absolute favorite character in the entire trilogy. I don't know if this is a cold or hot take, but I just think Sam's compassion and loyalty for the people he cares about just elevates him so much higher compared to the rest of the characters. And all of that things, his compassion and loyalty, is just so phenomenally done. And it shines so much in this final scene and the entire movie. For example, Sam rescuing Frodo after he literally kicks Sam out because Gollum manipulates him. Like, Frodo, what are you doing? Like, seriously, here's my problem with Frodo. Sam has been his right-hand man for probably not even just these movies, but things that happened before these movies. And for some reason, I know the stupid ring is manipulating him and causing his mind to be deluded, but seriously, that's absurd that he trusts this creepy Gollum thing over someone he's known for years. Like really? But whatever. Let's move on to Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, who, this is probably my main issue with the film. Now, despite Legolas being completely and utterly useless the entire trilogy, even Aragorn and Gimli feel really sidelined in this movie. They go on this mission or quest and they discover this cave with a bunch of ghost people in it. And then the ghost people come and help them win the Battle of Gondor. And to be honest, this just never really clicked with me. But yeah, everything I just said takes over an hour and a half, 2 hours of their side plot in this movie. And that is because these main characters, who are a central 3 of the trilogy, after they befriend the ghost people, they are not seen for, I swear to God, about an hour. And that just really grinded my gears, seeing as I just love Aragorn and Gimli. So other than this ghost people side plot and Aragorn's final speech at the gate, they don't really do a lot in this movie. However, what's going on with the others? Well, Merry and Pippin get split up, and Pippin goes with Gandalf to Gondor, and Merry stays with the people of Rohan. Merry even starts to connect with this girl, Eowyn, who is a member of the Rohan people, and she and Aragorn had this kind of weird side romance for a solid 30 minutes before it quickly got dropped. But yeah, they start connecting, Merry and Eowyn. And I actually kind of love their little connection and their plot in this movie. The way they're so determined to fight alongside the people of Rohan and trying to convince King Theoden to let them fight, even though she's a woman and he's a hobbit, there should be no reason for them not to fight, and I think it's really nice. It's also just super fun to see this determination pay off, as in the last battle of Gondor, they're the ones who take down the dreaded Nazgul, which is one of the hardest things to kill, as far as my understanding, because the dude's, like, insane. And it's just really nice to see. However, after that, they are not really in the movie anymore, and that's kind of a massive letdown because I really like them, but, you know, Eowyn is pretty much completely gone for the rest of the movie, and Merry participates in the last battle at the gate, but that's about it. Should also mention that during the scene with the Nazgul, Merry almost dies, and I really thought Merry was gonna die because it looked like a death scene, but nope. The next scene, he is totally fine. Just totally fine. Like nothing happened. For like the 5th time in like an hour, a character comes back to life. Finally, we have Pippin and Gandalf. And for some reason, this is like the section that we get the most amount of time in. And while I know I haven't really touched on Pippin and Merry's characters throughout the entire trilogy, and that's because I don't really like Pippin at all. I do think both Merry and Pippin, but especially Pippin, are at their best in this film. But even though Pippin is at his best, he's still a bumbling idiot who like swears his loyalty to a literal evil king, and it's kind of stupid. Gandalf, however, this is the movie that made me see Gandalf, and I was like, wow, yeah, this is why people hype up Gandalf, because he is awesome in this movie. In every scene he's in, he feels so in control, and he's funny while he does it. His small little quips towards Pippin are so well timed and really well executed. And then the final fight scene at the Gate of Mordor, where everything comes to a climax. During this fight is when the whole Frodo and Sam and Gollum thing up in Mount Doom is happening, which I already talked about, so let's talk about the battle itself. Aragorn gives a great speech at the beginning of the battle, and then bang, it begins. And yeah, it's awesome. It's very well shot, and I love the way it feels like the culmination of the entire trilogy coming together. It just has every main character fighting for the peace that they've been wanting for so long, and it's great. The score, the tension, the stakes, it's just truly a masterful scene in my opinion. However, once the ring is destroyed and the battle finishes, everyone lives. Now I understand why Tolkien wrote it this way, but I don't care. For me, I would have loved to see one main character die. Just one. You know, this kind of reminded me of Stranger Things, where it has that tendency to just only kill the side characters and never the main characters, except frickin' Boromir, but that was the first movie. For me, it just would have really set in with the characters and the audience with how much really was sacrificed if one of the main characters died, and I think it would have added a lot more of an emotional punch at the end than it did. It just really sometimes seems like the story and the plot is saving the characters. Literally, it is protecting them from death, because there are tons of times where a main character is supposedly about to die. I mean, Frodo almost dies like 5 times in the first film, and also when Merry is literally dying in Pippin's arms and then all of a sudden is back to life in the next scene. What? That would have given Pippin so much more determination in the battle, and it just would have been so much more of an emotional moment. But no, everyone lives. Then everyone returns home and all is good in the world, and we get this absolutely hilarious scene where Frodo wakes up in the clinic or the hospital or whatever, wherever he is, and every main character kind of walks in the room, and you can visibly and sometimes audibly hear him mouth their name or say their name. And then Legolas walks in, and Frodo kind of looks at him like, who is this guy? I don't even remember his name. And that scene perfectly encapsulates why Legolas is the worst character in the trilogy. He's just an absolute massive waste of space, time, and Orlando Bloom. Anyways, yeah, the final boat scene is flawless. Everyone knows it. It's so emotional. It's so good. It's the final boat scene. I also love Aragorn's moment when he gets crowned the King of Gondor. That's just such a good moment, man. It's just so perfect. So all in all, despite me complaining probably the most during this segment than any other one, this is probably easily my favorite movie in the trilogy. It does have its flaws, but for what it offers, I think it is the experience. It is the full Lord of the Rings experience in a movie where so many characters are at their best in this film. You get the amazing climax, you get Frodo and Sam, like, it's just so good. I love this movie a lot, and it really is a breeze of 4 hours. So all in all, I'm feeling a light to decent 9 on that one. Transition! So there it is. Every Lord of the Rings films reviewed. I hope you guys didn't get too pissed off and are able to accept the fact that I don't give any of these films a 10 out of 10 or even a 5 out of 5 stars. I still hope you guys like the video and can like and subscribe if you want to, of course. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, or night, or whenever you're watching this. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.